Good day, good day, good day, good day. Happy Tuesday. I want to welcome you back to another Holistic Life podcast. I am your host, Shelby Frederick, and we are broadcasting live from the Columbus, Ohio region. Listen, it is such a delight and such a joy to be back with you here in my home studio here, just to bring you some additional tips, practical tips, some information on how we are still supporting our teams. And I just want to just say that this has really been eye-opening. It has been educational to a lot of you that have been following along and have also been just staying up to date with the podcast, up to date with things that I've been posting on the blog, and also looking at just ways that we can continue to have the conversation concerning our teens and our youth, and just making sure that we are providing them with the best resources that we can. Now, today, we are actually going to be talking about motivation and motivating our teens and helping them as they are coming through so many different challenges. We all remember the time when our children were younger. We remember the time when there wasn't too many issues, just carefree. They were happy just to do about anything. But oftentimes, and just like even we may have experienced as well, that when we get older, sometimes as parents and caregivers, we have a hard time trying to motivate them. And oftentimes we get frustrated. We get frustrated because, they are in their video games for hours. They're on their phone for hours. There's TikTok, there is Snapchat, there is Instagram, and they can avoid homework, they can avoid pick up our being out of school for summer break. I felt like this was a great segue to bring just some encouragement, some practical tips for our parents and our caregivers. And so we're going to jump into that on today. We don't want to forget that we are not the only ones as adults that have experienced challenging times with being, COVID-19 and the pandemic. That has limited a lot of the opportunities for socializing and also for extracurricular activities. And even though those things are slowly opening back up, it still can be challenging to keep them motivated. So one of the first things that I always like to say is, the Bible talks about, how we should not provoke our children, to anger. And so we have to be careful of how we even relate to them. So one of the first things that I want to say is that you don't want to label them as being lazy. We really have to try to step into their world and to understand their perspective, because their perspective is different than ours. And so again, we're going to take a look at some of these ideas for motivating your team. So the first one I want to talk about is making sleep a priority. I know that it sounds like it is a no-brainer, but they have to make sleep a priority. Many of our teens are tired, and much of the time, it's due to sleep deprivation. And for biological reasons, I'm not sure if you knew this or not, they need about 9 hours of rest. 9 hours of rest. And they're likely to be night owls. So that can make it very difficult to wake up early when it's time for school, or if there's chores and activities that they have to, that they are participating in. So you want to try enforcing consistent bedtime and limiting screen time. And that screen time that we are talking about is that time where they are on those phones, or on, their iPads, or whatever electronic device that they are using. Limiting that time at night, and actually setting a time at night where those have to be shut down. So number one, make sleep a priority. The second one would be to upgrade your diet. So your family's eating habits could be causing fatigue as well. If all that they know is junk food, or the sugars, avoid that. Avoid the junk food that is high in unhealthy fat and sugars by serving balanced meals and nutritionist snacks. These are some of the ways that you can help to upgrade their diet. You want to fight dehydration by drinking water and eating fruits and vegetables. Now, one of the tricks that you can use because most people will say, or water is nasty, doesn't have any, taste to it. You can use fruit. So you can use fruit-infused water. You can also add mint leaves to it to give it a nice, refreshing, nourishment for their bodies. But especially when they're outside playing, they're running. Just like we did as we were kids. Hey, we used to drink from the water hose. I'm not saying that was a healthy thing for us to do, but at least we were getting water. So upgrade your family's diet and eating habits. Tip number 3 is to test for learning disability. Test for learning disability. We were having a conversation about this a couple of weeks ago, and I believe that it might have been in our phone group. And we were talking about how the stigma of shame of having a child with a learning disability. But listen, this is not the time, to ignore the signs. Test for it. Many students struggle due to undiagnosed learning disabilities. So you want to ensure that your child receives the recommended test, whatever testing that may be. You want to work with their school to arrange any special accommodations that they will need, in the classroom or through remote learning. And so these are some of the things that you should be taking a look at, especially now during the summertime, while they're not in school. Begin to set them up for a successful school year in the fall. But get your child tested for any learning disabilities. Tip number 4 is to check hearing and vision. If your child's grades were dropping, they may have trouble seeing the chalkboard or even hearing the teacher. So take care of their eyes and their ears, making sure that they are getting regular examinations. And also talk about the dangers of listening to loud music. Oftentimes they are walking around, they've got headphones on, their earphones on, they've got earbuds, in their ear. They've got the volume on max. Listen, we have to be aware of just some practical things that we can do that may be actually hindering your child's motivation. So check hearing and vision. Check for your hearing and vision. And again, now is the perfect time to do it while they are out of school. Tip number 5 is to treat depression and anxiety. And if you have been following along with the podcast series since the month of May, we have been focused specifically on our teens, and we've talked a lot about depression and anxiety. Being aware of the sudden or the dramatic increases in listlessness and withdrawal could be symptoms of depression and anxiety. So you want to make sure that you are talking with your family doctor about any concerns that you may have. Now, what are some other strategies that we can use to motivate our teens? Well, you can build their confidence. build their confidence. Your team will be more prepared to motivate themselves if you, as the parent or the caregiver, begin to boost their confidence and their self-esteem. You want to be generous with your praise, and to help them to recognize their core strengths. It could be the smallest thing, but the smallest amount of praise over small tasks can be such a great boost in their confidence and a great boost in their self-esteem. You also want to work as a team. Remember that you and your child are on the same side. We're not on opposite sides. And so as parents and caregivers, we have to search for the common goals that we can pursue together. There are some common goals that we can pursue together. And when we begin to lay those foundations, what we will find is that we'll be working more as a team instead of working, as we are against one another. Now, the next one would be to negotiate and compromise. So while you are working as a team, as parents and caregivers, sometimes your team will have different priorities than you. They might be more enthusiastic about completing maybe a certain paper or completing a project if you promise to give them, say, like driving lessons over the weekend, driving lessons over the summer. Sometimes we have to negotiate and compromise in order to make sure that we are both getting what we want and what we need, to make sure that the priorities for the parent or the caregiver and the priorities for your child are both getting accomplished. Next would be to offer choices. Listen, I know sometimes I didn't give my children choices at all. It was just do as I said, and that was it. But we want to, and let me say this, when we don't give them choices, sometimes it affects their ability to make sound decisions, even as adults. It's not about choosing for them so that they never make a mistake. That is never, ever, ever going to happen. And so if you can begin to offer them choices, more than likely that your team is more than likely to cooperate when they can approach tasks in their own way. So let them decide how to clean their room instead of saying how you want it cleaned. Let them begin to budget their allowance instead of making demands about what they should be doing. Offering choices has such a benefit when it comes to their ability to make choices as an adult. I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. Now, the next tip would be to laugh. Laugh, laugh, laugh. If you have a long running conflict, say over dress code, how they are dressing, it could be over curfew. Humor may dissolve the tension. And instead of just, saying, doing what I say, begin to share some funny stories from your own childhood, from your own upbringing. That brings them into that world and that understanding that, I'm not just telling you this because I'm your parents. I'm telling you this because, listen, the same thing happened to me. So I want you to learn from my experiences. I want you to learn from my mistakes so that you don't have to. And so having that time of sharing, making it something funny, something humorous, will also be a boost just to your relationship that you have with your child. Now, the next thing would be to lighten up. Listen, I'm all for discipline, but sometimes as parents, we've got to lighten up. Find balance between setting those boundaries and exerting excessive pressure. Teens may lose motivation if they feel like your expectations are too high. And parents, caregivers, sometimes we set unrealistic expectations upon our kids. And then we wonder why they're not motivated. We wonder why that there is this, what we may see as rebellion, but it's because we've just set that bar and that demand way too high. And that is a motivation killer every single time. What you want to do is you want to praise them for making an effort instead of demanding that they win the first prize. You know, we have to be careful that we are not living our lives through our children. Again, that's another thing that will that we can see making these unrealistic expectations can push your child, to a place where they don't even feel comfortable because you've never even given them an option to have a choice, or you've just been so hard that it can lead them down some dark roads that we do not want to go there. Now, the next tip would be to stay calm. To stay calm. Your relationship with your teen matters more than any temporary disagreement. We as parents and caregivers, we still have to speak to them. We have to speak to each other with respect and show compassion as they try to cope with the changes in their development. So if you need to take a break, take a break. Regain your composure and then come back and begin to speak with that respect. Speak with that love. Show that compassion. It will do so much for your relationship. And then the last tip is simply to keep trying. Never give up. Motivating your teen is an ongoing process. You may need to repeat the same message several times. Don't get frustrated. Keep trying. You may need to experiment with different approaches. Don't get frustrated. Try a different approach. Most importantly, focus on overall progress regardless of the occasional setback. So as parents and caregivers, you can help your child to develop intrinsic motivation and other life skills that they will need in order to fulfill their dreams. Don't think that your teen don't want to do well. Your teen wants to do well. And in their success depends on your guidance and your support. The Bible tells us that if we train up a child in the way that they should go, that when they get old, that they will not depart from it. Again, these are just some practical tools, practical skills that we want to pass along, that we want to remind us of, because your teen really does, they really do want to do well. They want to make you proud. They want to be successful, but they need the proper guidance and the proper support. So I pray that this has been a blessing to you. Again, this parent's guide to motivating your teen, and we're going to close today's segment just by sharing some of our upcoming announcements. Again, as we are talking about teens, we have open enrollment for our youth empowerment mentorship. I have something that is going to be dropping on Friday. That is going to be a digital mentorship program, and you will have the opportunity to tap into some videos, just with some information that I shared today. There's also going to be some things for your youth to do during the summertime to keep that empowerment going, to keep them encouraged. We're going to be talking about mental and emotional wellness, some leadership development, entrepreneurship, team building, literacy, and so on and etc. Again, we are an ACES after school child care education provider, and we are preparing for our fall youth empowerment mentorship. And so in order to kind of get us going, we are going to be dropping a digital youth empowerment mentorship box or toolkit. And again, it's going to have a lot of resources in it for you. For those of you that are a part of or have not heard about the ACE, if you are here in Ohio, it has provided up to $500 per child that between the ages of 6 and 18 that can participate in this program. I will be sure to drop the link in this podcast so that you can come back to see if you can apply. See if your child applies, because you would be able to use that scholarship to be able to purchase the Youth Empowerment Digital Toolkit that you will be able to use for the rest of the summer. Now, there is a deadline. You have to do it before June 30th. Before June 30th. So if this is something that you are interested in getting for not only yourself, but also for your youth to use during the summertime, make sure that you visit the website. Again, I will post the link in this podcast so that you can go. Please, if you know of other parents, it's worth the try to see if your student qualifies, because the funds and the finances, the resources are there. And again, we will be offering our in-person youth empowerment mentorship after school activities come August, when the school year starts back up again. So again, make sure you check us out for more information. And I want to just announce to you again that our hardcover journals are on Amazon. This is our literary collection that are featuring our customized journals, notebooks, and our planners are going to be coming in the fall for 2023. So again, if you are a writer, if you love to journal, if you need a notebook, we now have them available in hardcover and paperback, so you can go ahead to Amazon and get those right online. And then finally, we have filled up our summer intensive, and we are now enrolling for our October classes. So if you have a desire, and I encourage you, those of you that are ministry leaders, those of you that are in discipleship, if you are discipling people, if you are a local ministry and you would like to start counseling services in your ministry, this is a phenomenal course for you to take to get your ministry and your people certified to become a certified faith-based clinical counselor. Again, our next cohort of classes starts in October. These are going to be held on Wednesday evenings. If Wednesday is not a good day for you, please send me a message, send me an email, and we can try to coordinate a different day. But Wednesday is the designated day that we are hosting the classes. Again, the registration ends on Monday, September 12th for our October class. So I want to again encourage you, pastors, leaders, If you're looking, listen, we can no longer ignore the mental health. We can no longer ignore it. And so I have the classes. I'm an instructor for these classes, and we do have them available. Again, our next session will start in October, the first Wednesday in October. So you can send me a message to get more information, or you can visit my website. Again, I want to thank you all for joining us for today's Holistic Life podcast. I am your host, Shelby Frederick. We are broadcasting live from the Columbus, Ohio region. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, you can scan, depending upon what device you're using, you can scan the QR code that is here, located on the screen, and that will take you directly to my website. I pray that you all have a blessed rest of your week. We shall talk to you soon. Have a fantabulous rest of your day. Bye-bye.